right. It's 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. I see my friend Wayne. I see my friend Nick. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey guys.
Hey, Joe.
We are waiting for a few people to get in, but I see we got some friendly, familiar faces rolling in. Amanda, Ann, we got Bernie, and oh, Brett. What's up, Brett? Daniel, Dorothy, more people than I can say. I'm going in alphabetical order. But thank you all for being here on time. This is the punctual part of the crowd. I'll meet the other half in about 5 minutes. But thank you in virtual land for being here. And gentlemen, Wayne and Nick, it's so good to be with both of you today. So I'll start with Wayne first. How's your day? And what are you excited for specifically this Wednesday?
My day is good, Joe, and I'm fired up to be talking about AI and how it's changing the legal profession. So,
All right. Well, it's good. This is our first time, me and you doing this. Nick and I have done something similar like this almost a year ago. But Nick, it's great to see you as well. You always look so smart with a whiteboard full of, I don't know what kind of fancy information behind you. I don't know if it's math, if it's science, if it's law, because I know you're finishing up your JD right now. But anyway, Nick, how are you doing? What are you excited about um, today as well?
Great. Yeah, I'm in the Matador office in LA today. Wayne's in DC, and we spoke a year ago about really how to master LSAs for firms. And today I'm going to be more of a bystander, listening to Wayne. So looking forward to
Oh, I don't know if bystander is the right word.
it. Moderator.
That's good, man. Well, hey, thank you for bringing this together. I mean, this could not have happened without you. And for everyone watching, whether you are part of the Intaker family or the Matador family, it's good to have you here. We're going to try to make this as action-packed, as fun, engaging, but mostly educational as possible. And so I think it's 11:02. I'll get started just sharing my screen, make sure that we can get the tech side worked out. And then, oh, by the way, hold on. There's one important thing. Speaking of tech side, I may ask people, let's see, attendees can chat with everyone, panelists can chat with everyone. The chat should be open. So if you're here with us and you're sitting and you're watching and you want to be able to type, we love to hear if you can share where you're from. And then if you are an attorney, what you love to specialize in, or just what you love about life. If you're not an attorney, that's fine too. So we got Kelowna, BC in the house. What's up, Miranda? Good to see you. All right, and like I said, Nick, thank you so much for taking over, making sure no one gets left behind on the chat. Can everyone see this screen?
Got it on
Yeah. All right, cool. I take it that means. Oh, and by the way, folks in the audience, this might be set up where you see the screen on the main part and then little boxes for the speakers on the right side. There is a divider bar. You can actually click and drag that divider bar to make it a little bit more even. If you don't need the whole presentation, you can see our face a little bit bigger that way. It's hard for me to demonstrate here, but anyway, so what we're going to be talking about today, 3 AI tools to speed up your casework, your intake process, and just take all the stuff that takes you way too much time and automate as much of that while using AI. And Wayne is, I'm going to get to his intro in a minute, but Nick and Wayne came and asked about what we were doing in terms of education for our community, not just with intakers' use of AI and automation tools for intake, but it's a big world for attorneys, a lot of different tools. There's actually, I'd say, more tools that I'm learning about every day, and they're not all created equal. And so having someone like Wayne here to kind of set the stage and show what he's actually been able to use in his law firm is pretty important, pretty huge. So let me just say, oh, okay, we'll go to this one. These are the 3 speakers here today. I'm going to get to introduce Wayne in a little more detail in a moment. But Nick, if you want to kick us off and just tell the good people a little bit about yourself, your role at Matador, and then we'll also get to Matador in a bit as well. But go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I know a bunch of people in this chat are already, members of the co-op. I spend all day thinking about how to grow law firms on the internet. And to age myself a little bit, so I'm 27, and if you go back to when I was 12, I was working with Wayne to really, learn to code and learn to get cases online. And Matador really was founded at that. And then, so I call that my quote unquote day job. And then, my night job is pursuing my JD at Loyola Law School.
That is awesome. Well, hey man, thank you for being here, holding it down. And oh, you know what? I just wanted to, oh shoot, sorry guys. Here it is. This is the slide I was looking for. So thank you, Nick. Didn't mean to cut you off, Wayne, but there's a few boxes here, right? The Q&A box, if you have a question, it's a little bit easier if you just want to drop it in there. The chat box, some of you are already using that. Just make sure that you switch it from if you message hosts and panelists, change it to everyone. And so it'll look a little different than this, but you get the idea as far as the housekeeping. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and just give a really quick introduction to our featured speaker. So, Wayne, I know you've been at this for a while. You started Matador, I think, in the mid-90s, from what you told me. You've been doing jury trials for a very long time, over 30 years, over 100 trials. And I know that you're also a professor at GW University. So I hope you can share with the people, what that's like a little bit. And then as far as the media, I don't know how, but you've seemed to be, in the news more than anyone else I know, between ABC and NBC, Fox, and everyone else, major network television. And so, as well as some of the business publications. So I know you go beyond just a lawyer and, founder of a company, but you've got a background in business just beyond law, and helping lawyers. And so it's great for you to be here. Thank you for just giving your time and sharing with the people a little bit of what your experience has been, both in legal, in tech, and I guess in marketing as well, because you're at the central point for all of these things. And so I'm going to let you take it away for this next part. But just thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Joe, is there a way to stop the? There we go. Okay.
There we go.
So,
Thank you.
first of all, good to see everybody. And quick disclaimer: I absolutely, positively cannot stand Zoom. I hate it. So I want to pretend that we're not looking at each other through a screen. We're sitting across, having a beer or Diet Coke or milk, whatever you drink in the middle of the day on a Wednesday. And sort of talking about AI. And let me give you just 60 seconds of additional background on sort of how I got into this. So Matador is a co-op. We have more than 100, I think, and 60 firms. So the information, I formed Matador because I got so frustrated with the state of marketing and information and all the noise that was out there. And we founded Matador, Joe, 10 years ago, although the initial stuff started way back. And I called my friends and family members who were lawyers and said, let's all share information, right? So by way, for me, Nick is 27, so I'm 57. You all can do the math there. So we'll go back in time. So that means I was born in the 60s. So in the 70s, I was a nerdy kid building computers. One of those guys. In the 80s, I was a coder, but I don't want to overstate that. I wasn't a great coder. I was just sort of good enough, but I got by. And then in the 90s, I started teaching at GW Law School. And this was a time when the internet came around only really for two reasons: science and education. And so I was like, there's this cool thing out called the internet. I'm going to start messing around with it. And I was messing around with Ask Jeeves and AOL in the earliest sort of iterations of the net. But then by the mid 2000s, we started getting cases in the door from the internet. And it was this new thing. Now we're going back, 18 years. So, and since then, fast forward, if you have been practicing, for a couple decades, or if you've studied law, we've gone from being a profession to, in large part, a business. Years and years and years ago, lawyers were just professionals. We didn't really think about the business of law, but now we think about the business of law. How do we get cases in the door? You could be the greatest lawyer in the world, but not have any cases. And that's like being an incredible singer who's singing in the middle of the forest and no one's hearing. So we have to get cases in the door. The information that I have in part is because of my background, but is in larger part because of the members of Matador. So people that I will just talk to. And I've known people in our group, some more than 50 years, a lot 40 years, a whole bunch 30 years, and even going back 2 decades. So lots of friends and even family within the co-op. So that's how we have compiled information. And that's what I'm going to share today, sort of best practices from what we find within the co-op, if that makes sense. So from there, we'll talk about, by the way, you're all getting, I gather, pounded by AI companies. Joe, to your point, there's so much AI out there. We get emails all the time. And so I want to really narrow it down to 2 of the most effective tools, and Joe will talk about the third. So I'm going to talk about ChatGPT and about case text. I'll talk for 60 seconds on the ethics, and I'll do that right now, which is if you're using any of these tools, always remember to double check the work. They are 80% incredible, 20% absolutely catastrophic. So make sure, and you've probably seen the cases out in New York and some other jurisdictions where people relied on case law that didn't actually exist, which is a huge problem. So just make sure that you're double checking everything. We don't have that issue with Intaker, but with case text and with ChatGPT, we definitely do. All right, one other disclaimer. I gave this lecture to faculty, some faculty members at GW Law, because they were interested in sort of the interplay between AI and law students coming out of law school. What does that look like? How do you become the best lawyer possible? And since I gave that lecture, which was probably 2 months ago, things have even changed since then rapidly. I like to do this in real time. So I'm going to jump online in 1 second, share my screen, and we're going to do some mock runs using case text and ChatGPT. It is possible we will get a glitch, and I have a plan B if we do, because I have this stuff recorded. But sometimes ChatGPT just won't function when I need it to, nor will case text. But we're going to give it a shot. All right, here goes. So we are going to start with some facts. And can everyone see that? I hope you all got that. Okay.
Looks good.
So we're going to start with some facts, and I just want to highlight this. Now, I'm going to start with this because of time. Although when I give the lecture, normally I'll go into chat and I'll ask people just to give me facts. We'll make it up as we go. There was a car accident, and ask somebody what kind of car accident was it? Oh, it was a rear end, or I had a slip and fall, or I had something else. And I'll get to some other areas in terms of estate planning and other work in a few minutes, but I like to build the facts as we go because it makes it more interesting, but we don't really have time. So just take me on my word. You can take these facts and you can change them. So let's imagine that we are in a law firm and you are a lawyer representing a plaintiff in a car accident case. Your client's name is Jane Doe, and Jane is struck while crossing the crosswalk between 17th and K, which is a big intersection here in DC. An ambulance comes, takes Jane to the hospital. She has a broken femur and needs surgery, misses time from work. So this is the basic fact pattern. You can change it however you want. I'm going to ask, has anybody not used ChatGPT? Has anybody, I'll say not used ChatGPT, and if you can just show your hands, I don't know, Nick, tell me what's happening in there. If there's...
Anyone hasn't used it, just shoot a message. That would be, and we can.
Yeah.
I'm going to say nobody that hasn't used it yet.
Okay. So ChatGPT, first where I'm hovering here, 3.5 or 4.0. Highly recommend 4.0. I think it's $20 a month. And if you look at ChatGPT as the best assistant ever, you're not going to get sued for an employment discrimination case. You're not going to have an overtime wage and hour issue with ChatGPT. So 4.0 is the way to go. And what we're going to do here in ChatGPT, this is the screen you're going to get, is we're going to type in, and some of you may have done this, we're going to type in this set of facts. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT, instead of writing an opening, I'm going to say, write a demand letter to the insurance company. And we're going to have ChatGPT hopefully give it a run. Now this is in real time. Take another, hopefully 30 seconds.
And so, Wayne, while this is working, this is just pretty much out of the box stock ChatGPT version 4. This is not like a special build or anything, right?
This is right. So for everybody, this is literally just out of the box, right? You have, imagine what I always say is, just for 1 second while this is processing. So imagine in today's environment, it's a Friday at 5 o'clock, and you call a paralegal or an associate into the office, and you say to the paralegal, "Hey, would you mind drafting this? I'm going to be working all weekend. Can you draft this demand letter for me, please? I really would just love to have it because I'm going to work and I need to get this out on Monday." And then in today's environment, and I'm not, Nick, I don't mean to insult you, but I get back, wait a minute, where's the work-life balance here? I came to this firm because there's work-life balance. And I'm pulling my hair out saying, well, we have clients, we have to work. And that's what it is. So you don't get any of that back with ChatGPT, right? You're going to get the work done whenever you need it done. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Okay, so we have the demand letter that was now kicked out, but I am not the kind of person who likes this type of demand letter, hypothetically. I like a chart in my demand letter. And this is where ChatGPT, most people who've used it don't get to this part. So I'll say we can engage with ChatGPT because it will learn as we go. So I'm going to say, I like the letter, but please give me a chart to itemize. By the way, if I mess up the spelling, it's the damages. And so at this point, ChatGPT will rerun the chart, giving me a chart, hopefully, of the damages in a form that maybe I'll use and maybe I won't, but it gives me some structure to take a look at. And you can see how this plays itself out. So now you can see that using the same set of facts, give me, I don't know, 50 deposition questions for the defendant. Here's your chart, by the way, so you can sort of use that as you see fit. And we're going to ask ChatGPT, just like you might ask an associate, pull some questions together for me. You may have your own charts that you already use. For those of you who litigate, by the way, I recently asked ChatGPT to write a spoliation letter, a preservation of evidence letter, and I gave it the facts, and it wrote the most incredible letter that I was embarrassed by my letter that I have been using for more than a decade. It wasn't perfect. Again, 20% catastrophically wrong, but 80% correct. And as you see the questions that are coming out, they're pretty good. They're not perfect, but they're pretty good. But I don't like tons and tons of questions. So I'm going to say, great, now can you summarize these into categories? Because that's how I don't like specific questions. I gather most of you won't either. It'll have to finish this search first. And the thing about the interaction is you can really go back and forth with ChatGPT on this. It'll really start to evolve. So, and this will be the last thing I'll do for the moment. Oh no, I have one more. Sorry. So this will then summarize the deposition questions that you have. So we have demand letter, right? We have deposition questions, and we can even have it take on some additional work. So here we go. Right, so now we have the summary. So we see how that shakes out. Okay, true story, yesterday afternoon. Imagine I'm sitting in a conference room and I have two of my partners there. And one is in her early 60s. She's not a technology person. And I said to her, Kim, can you use AI for writing an opening? And she said to me, Wayne, what's AI? And okay, so now we know what we're talking about. So I said, let's use ChatGPT to write your opening statement in a case. And she said, I'm not doing it. There's no way. I don't want to hear about it. This was yesterday. I don't want to hear about it. It's not going to happen. I said, I'm giving another presentation tomorrow. I've done a bunch of these. Can you please just sit for 60 seconds? She said, okay. So we sit and I ask I ask for these, it's similar set of facts. And I say, now, please write an opening statement. She has not the same facts, but a big case coming to trial, big meds. And what's incredible about this is the ability to interact with AI on what you want and what you don't want. And if you look in the third paragraph, for those of you who litigate, the phrase, and you may use this or you may not, but if we want to look at the level of detail and nuance, look at the evidence will show, right? The evidence will reveal. So some people like that phrase, some don't, but either way, the fact that we have that there is what is so remarkable. But then I went back and I said, great, and whatever you, it's not even say great, because I use that, I like this, but we're in DC. Give me a metaphor for the Washington Monument. Maybe not for is not the best word. Using the Washington Monument. Okay, and we'll see what it comes back with. So now we're looking at, today we stand not far from the Washington Monument, a pillar that rises steadfastly over our city. It stands as a symbol of strength and resilience, qualities that the people of the city are known for, qualities that Jane does. Now, it may be cheesy and 20% terrible, but it's not bad, 80%, right? And I'm going to say, maybe we're trying this case somewhere, maybe down in Southern Virginia, and I don't know, maybe somewhere we're not trying it in DC. And I'm going to say, looks good, but make it more folksy. I have no idea what I'm going to get, by the way. I know I'll get something halfway decent, but I really don't know what they're going to say. Okay. And now we can see how the level of nuance here changes. And if you look at the languaging, right? A mother, a neighbor, a friend to many right here in our community were the conjunctive there from a site you all know well. And if you look at the language here, it's much more folksy. It is much softer, much more like telling a story. So in terms of ChatGPT, this is the level of help we can get. Now, we can also, finally, I want to just talk about one other brand new feature. I only get this about 1 out of 5 times. So I'm not sure, but I'll say, please make a medical diagram showing the femur fracture. I don't know if I'm going to get this, but we'll see. So 4.0, I don't think these are good enough for trial, by the way, but I think they're good enough if it'll come up with it. I think they are good enough to save a lot of time with experts. And I think it's pretty, it should hopefully come up. Yeah, so we have something that's workable, and we can ask it to edit the language, to change the location of the fracture, and it's getting much better. This has changed a lot in like 3 weeks, literally like 3 weeks. Okay, so are there any, I want to move over to case text, but I just want to, Nick, are there any questions in chat about chat that we need to mention or anything popping up?
No questions, but I do know about, I looked at all this people that are here, and it's about half plaintiffs, PI firms, the other half are spread across,
Yeah.
bankruptcy, divorce, estate planning, business lit, et cetera. What do you think is the role of this for those types of firms?
I think it's a really good question. And I think when we talk about the transactional work, I'll show that in a second, where we sort of leave the litigation world and get into transaction. So for legal research and issues that all come up, you can ask ChatGPT, and we'll talk about case text, research questions, what the law is. We can use it as a great place in order to start. But it also is pretty decent at drafting certain provisions that you may want to have. For example, let's say we want to draft, you can say you're a lawyer. My typos are going to be a mess. You're a lawyer litigating. Yeah, we'll just say you're a lawyer who is preparing a policy manual for a client. I need a thorough NDA for employees, whatever you want. And you're going to get, you can run this, you can spend 15 minutes and ask it to expand different issues. So you can say, for example, what's the definition of confidential language? I don't like that definition of confidential language. So you can say, expand the definition of confidential language. Now imagine you were asking an associate to do this work. There's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until you get it right. But we're able to make these changes. You can also do this in estate planning documents. You can, if there's a provision in a will, for example, that you maybe haven't drafted or is something that's off the cuff, maybe someone owns, 17 businesses and you have to have some buy-sell agreements or something. It's just not something that you do all the time. You can do the exact same thing. The more information that you provide, and this is where it gets really scary, but the more information you provide to ChatGPT, the better the answer is, the better the result. So you could put in certain provisions of an estate plan that you have, for example, and you can say, give me a draft here. You can ask for it to create forms that you need. Look at the difference. I mean, look at this. I just asked, again, this is number one. This is the definition. And I just interacted with it and said, expand this for me, right? And this is the new clause that I have. Think of it as getting, if it's 80% right, 20% a mess, that's pretty good. And we can keep building and building and building and building. And you can upload your own document to it. There's a process you can do where you can upload your own, form that you use and say, just expand this one section. So that sort of gets into the transactional world. The other thing, whether you litigate or do anything transactional, is with case text. And case text, so let me move this. Case text, I don't know if anyone has used case text before. Case text is basically, people ask me, what is case text? What are these other applications? If we think of ChatGPT as a three-legged stool, right? So a stool with three legs, case text becomes for lawyers a four-legged chair, but it's still built on that same foundation. We're still starting with the foundation of ChatGPT. It sits on top of it. A fun fact, I think I have the numbers right, Nick. If I'm wrong, correct me. But case text sold to, I think, Thomson Reuters for $650 million. So that four-legged chair sitting on top of that three-legged stool did a good job. Case text, by the way, I don't have any affiliate deal. I don't get paid any money at all for any of this. I personally use CoCounsel, which is this form of case text. And it has, for those that do transactional work, it has a really good process for drafting documents. It's sitting on top of ChatGPT, so you can use ChatGPT out of the box, but it's a little bit more refined in terms of being a little bit easier to use. I think, don't quote me on this, I'm not sure, but it's around $1,000 a month for this program. The summarized tool, so if you do estate planning, if you do PI, if you do business litigation, this is a fantastic aid. We don't have time to go through it all, but you would upload different documents that you have, and you can ask it to condense and to summarize. So if you're doing, maybe you have a large amount of documents you have for some business litigation or PI litigation, or you just need to summarize it. You have operating agreements for businesses that you need to have in some digestible form. You can run it through case text and it will process documents. It takes a while. We uploaded at one point, I think, 10,000 pages of documents, And it takes a while, but what you get but it's not as long as an associate. You could have, 4 people doing document production in a room for a week and not come back with the same stuff. The other thing about case text that's really good is if we start with research and we say, I'm just going to use, you can do whatever you want, whether it's an estate case or whether it's disability claim, whatever you want. I'm just going to use the pedestrian auto accident. And I might just say, we represent a pedestrian in Washington. We have to put the jurisdiction here, in Washington, D.C., who was struck by a drunk driver. Give me the relevant case law. And it will ask me, hopefully, yeah, it's going to ask me to give the year reference. I always, now, if you had some major monumental change in the law that you know about, there's some statute enacted or something, I wouldn't put the date at 1700, but I'm going to do that anyway, just so we have it. And I'm not including unpublished opinions. And this is going to start processing. And while this is going to take a minute or two. So Nick, let me see if there are any other questions. We'll have a minute or two while this is coming up. If not, I have another.
I think Daniel Clement, who's in the co-op, he's
Yep. Hey, Dan.
and had a question about spell check, which is supposed to be AI specialized for law. But I'm not familiar.
Is that Spellbook?
I'm not sure. Daniel, maybe you can jump in and just clarify.
I think Spellbook is the AI tool that I've heard of for law.
Okay.
I don't know too much about it, but
yeah,
Wayne, feel free.
I've heard yeah, Dan, I've heard about it. And there's about a half a dozen, Harvey, there's a bunch that are out there. So what we try to do within the co-op is to stay on top of, the best practices for information that's out there, no matter what that is. Because if we're making a recommendation, I personally won't get behind it unless I can bless it, unless I can say, hey, this is something that's extremely effective and really good. I have not had great success with it, and I have a technical background. I get a little nervous when I get too far away from ChatGPT, and I'm always using multiple references to double check. That's me, because I get nervous about it. And when we're using even case text, so okay, when we're using case text, even I'm always having a paralegal or an associate go back and shepherdize these cases, because I want to make sure they're good. So this is how case text works in terms of spitting out what is relevant. But the nice, and this is so fast, right? It's so fast and so digestible and so easy to understand. There's a short analysis here that I don't always follow, but it's a short analysis followed by the cases. I can click through to any of the cases that I want to click through here, right? I can just, this is going to take me right to the case. And I can refine the search if I want to, and tell it to narrow the cases or, to limit things in some other way. And that's really the nice thing, I think, with case text. It's just so easy to get through. And the ability to filter and narrow down is great. The other thing that I have heard in the co-op is that case text does we don't have the time, but case text and co-counsel in particular, which is this piece of case text, is really good for drafting as a starting point, as a foundation. So if you do transactional work, you do corporate work or an estate plan, and you're bumping into something that you just haven't done before, or a clause that you want to really see, you can ask it to draft, to generate that clause for you, and you can continually say, I don't like this. I want to be more concrete, right? More definite in one area, and that will work really well there. And then the summarize feature is good. And then the last thing I want to say, and I feel compelled to say this, is I had a third-year LLM student in my last lecture on AI say, "Are lawyers dead? Like, are we gone? We dead in the water with AI?" And the answer is, for me, my answer, that I think maybe it works for you, I don't know, but I believe that in order to be the best advocates possible and to be zealously representing our clients, we have to use AI. I mean, I tell everybody in the office, if you're not using AI, then you're not doing the best job possible for our clients. But AI, and if you ask ChatGPT this, it will answer honestly, no. If you ask the question, do you have intuition? It will say no. And we as lawyers have to use intuitive thought all the time. If you're a trial lawyer and you have to pick a jury and you have to pick juror A or juror B, ChatGPT is, you can plug in all the information you want, what they're wearing, what you think their background is, their training, their education. But at the end of the day, you have to make an intuitive decision. And so we do have that, we still have that freedom of employment, I think, because we have intuition. So anyway, that's a really fast version of everything. And if there's something along my part of it, Joe, anyone has questions, definitely reach out to Nick or to me, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Wayne, I learned a lot, so thank you first of all. And yeah, we will have time for a Q&A. I do want to touch on like the other tool, because we talked a lot about for like the actual casework. You talked about legal research, document drafting, and I guess before we move on, I had one question, Wayne, which is, where does case text sit in your workflow, right? So you mentioned that you're going to hand things off to a paralegal at a certain point, but like, when do you start using case text, and when does that move to like an actual human?
So I took a whole bunch of conversations with people in the co-op because, again, we're sharing information. Think of the co-op as like a think tank in a way. So just people that I have really close relationships with. And I sort of, in my mind, can picture best practices for any lawyer who's sitting at her desk or his desk trying to, or their desk trying to, work through everything here. And so what does that actually look like? And I think it looks like this. Number one, ChatGPT is always open, version 4.0, no matter what. So when questions come along, it becomes a research aid for anything that happens along the way, as you're doing your work. It's really good for that. It's great. In terms of workflow, once we get to legal issues, we saw in the litigation side, I mean, we're talking about everything. Deposition questions, opening, direct, cross, closing, interacting with it. It becomes great in terms of the litigation workflow. So that would be number two. Case text, I think, and what I've heard from lots and lots of people is, in my own experience, is that it's very good for legal research. It's a very good research tool 80% of the time. And you still have to go back and check it. It's fast. It's efficient, it's simple, it's easy to print. If I like to have things printed, it's easy to print the actual cases, and it's a really good tool for research. And then the last thing is, I had one lawyer who's he is been practicing probably 25 years doing transactional work, who said, I think he was drafting, I think it was like a release for a client or something, and it was a complicated indemnification clause. And he just went onto ChatGPT and onto Casetext and said, give me this indemnification language. And he had some specific facts in there, and got a really good answer, fast, really fast. So it was good information, quick. So that's where I think it kind of sits.
All right. Yeah, helps me. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but just getting into the mind of folks like yourself. Hey, I want to pivot now, and like when we announced this, there's really those two worlds, right? Actual casework and then intake. Talking to a lot of folks, those are two of the biggest time sucks that law firms, that attorneys have to deal with. And so I want to go to the second part now. And how can you take some of the AI tools, again, built on things like GPT-4, which is, you can imagine, the underlying architecture of ChatGPT, and how can we use that to streamline your intake process? I'm going to show you how, Intaker, if you don't know us, we do website chat. We now do LSA management as well for your law firm, if you are doing LSA messages. And the goal is to get more leads, but also importantly, pre-qualify them and make sure that your firm is really dealing with people that you can actually help, that you can serve. Because if you're spending too much time dealing with folks that you cannot work with at the end of the day, you can't get that time back, and it's not gonna move the ball forward. So anyway, let me share my screen, jump back into this.
And Joe, real quick, I did see a question pop up. And Shay, we can definitely get you an email on it. And Shay, Shay asked, what precautions do we need to take to ensure privacy in using these tools and potential
Yeah.
data leaks?
Joe, I didn't want to interrupt either, but in the legal world, it's a really good question. Like it's a killer question that I need to answer really briefly. I never put into ChatGPT or any AI actual facts of a case. I will always change them slightly so that if there's anything that's protected by the attorney-client privilege, just so I have it back. And if I'm uploading documents, for me, there are lots of companies that will have a BAA, business associate agreement, to have protections, but I always will redact name, social security number, things like that before I would upload. Those are the precautions that, that I personally take and recommend taking. It's a really good question. Sorry, Joe, I just had to, it was something that I didn't mention and it's really good.
I'm here for it. That's good. Shay, thank you for that. Okay, we had a couple, we didn't get to share all the love about about Matador, but I think a few of these folks might even be in the room. So anyway, go check them out online. They have just great reviews from their co-op members, and I don't know anyone like it. Okay, we kind of got to this part. How can AI save you time on casework and legal research? But I want to move to really quick, and we will get you out of here on time. We promise an hour, and we'll do that. But how can you streamline the intake process for a lot of your clients, really, so that you can focus more on the people who you are able to help and serve become clients, and less time on those that you just can't do anything for? All right, so tell me if any of this stuff resonates with you all in the audience, and I say that rhetorically. But when you're dealing with intake, there's several issues that really just come down to it is something that is time sensitive, right? If someone calls you on the phone or if they submit an inquiry on your website or through some other means, it's very time sensitive. Sometimes you don't have as much time as you would love to get back to everyone to find out, the facts of the case. And if there is something there you can help them with. Maybe if you or your team are, relying on doing everything over the phone when it comes to getting the right information, finding out, are they qualified or are they not? That could be something as simple as statute of limitations. It could be something a little bit more nuanced if it's dealing with like an injury or someone who's at fault, or maybe that's not clear. And then there might just be a lot of junk hitting your website, or people who are reaching out, wasting your time. If you had a way to take all of the pains that you might be experiencing with your intake process and just wave a magic wand, get rid of that, and then just be able to focus on those folks who you're happy to see, happy to talk to, you could actually do something to help. That's where we're going, where we've been moving into, using AI to do a lot of this stuff. So anyway, let me just paint a picture for you, right? When it comes to intake, if you could wave a magic wand and have exactly what you need, make sure that when you do talk to someone, whether that's you or your staff, get them pre-qualified. Know at least the basic information to determine, can you help this person? Is this even someone that you can refer if you cannot help them because maybe they're not in your jurisdiction, or if it's someone who maybe is just going to waste your time and you would like to cut that conversation shorter. And things like being able to, if they are, let's say, qualified, get them on the phone with the right person right away, live transfer to either an attorney, the right person on the team to handle and complete that intake. And then, things like, well, if they do reach out to you, again, not from a phone call, but from a website contact form or chat or something, some way to keep these leads warm. Because if you don't have a phone call right away, talking mostly to the personal injury attorneys where 5 minutes might be 4 minutes too late if you're getting back to a lead. But really, no matter who you are, having a way to keep the conversation warm, and then just having a way to track everything, right? So if you don't know Intaker, this is a lot of what we do. And I'm actually going to show a short example here in a bit. Wayne, you inspired me with your demo of a lot of these AI tools. So I want to jump into that in just a little bit. But to paint a picture quickly before we do that, having a chance for people to engage on your website, Intaker, you can imagine as one of the products as a chat, like I mentioned, to capture those leads, pre-qualify them. And if they're pre-qualified, move that conversation to a phone call, make it easy for the team to talk to only the right people quickly, And then if they are someone who you want to go ahead, send a retainer agreement or some other document to start the relationship, then you can do that pretty much with one click. All of these things, and having AI handle so much more of the process of not just getting leads in the door, pre-qualifying, and then making decisions about who's qualified, who's not, based on whatever is important for your firm. It's going to be different for firms. I know personal injury firms that only want to handle, incidents or injuries that happened within the past 30 days. That's just their preference. And other firms are willing to go back and take something that's been, 12 or 18 months, right? It depends on if you're looking at something like maybe you do med mal, maybe you just do, standard PI and single event, car accident cases, that sort of thing. In either case, having AI be able to work with you, understand your needs, your requirements, and then qualify and take actions on next steps for those leads accordingly, that is what we're looking at here. And so I'm not going to talk too much here because I'm actually going to switch to do a presentation about this. I'll share my screen and you'll get to see it in action. But the basic way of getting leads in, pre-qualifying, getting them into your system, whether you're using a special CRM for your leads, whether you're using it built into your case management tool, or if you're using Intaker for some built-in CRM and things like integration with eSign for easy sending retainers, all that stuff. So anyway, I will jump to share a quick demo. But I think before I do that, I'll just mention there's a few examples, right, of when it comes to when you're using chat to generate new business, get more clients in the door, then the chat that you use matters. Because I know that some attorneys hate chat like with a passion. And I've also heard of a lot of horror stories from attorneys that really make me understand why they feel that way. But understanding that the tools that are available now versus even a few years ago are very different. And so being able to use, AI to take the ball even further and actually make decisions about what is a pre-qualified lead and send that person a retainer or connect them on a phone call with either an attorney or so forth. These are things that you could not do with your chat even a couple of years ago, even a few months ago. So it's pretty exciting to see it be part of this. Anyway, Jason Krasno's had some stellar success. He's been with us 4 years. And so I know he was also he was using chat, but not seeing the kind of results that he would like to. Why I mentioned him is he is one of the few people I know that's doing about 50% of the new intakes coming in from the website are from chat. The other half comes from phone calls. I know he's got referrals and that might be a little bit separate, but just from the people who find him on web. Imagine if you're not using chat and you did this and you added a whole new channel and you're talking to a new demographic of people maybe before we're not reaching out just because it wasn't giving them the type of communication that they enjoyed. Now, if you can capture that part of the business, what would that do in terms of your growth? So anyway, I'll share.
Joe, just real quick, I wanted to mention for the people that are kind of older co-op members in the group, you've heard us beat a dead horse saying we hate chat. And Wayne, you have your own experience and maybe you can jump in on it, but for a long time we were incredibly against chat overall because we did big studies with some of the other chat services out there and really looked at what we care about was net quality leads is really the ultimate metric that we were looking at. And then we saw, this huge fall off in net quality leads. And then co-op members, a couple of them like Bernie, I hope it's okay that I'm calling you out. You had reported really good feedback with Intaker, and Neil Crane, who's not in, he had reported good feedback. And I just wanted to bring that up. And I know Wayne, you had some stuff you wanted to say on that before you.
Yeah. I mean, Joe, I feel bad like saying this, but I didn't even like Intaker. I hated it. When they first came to me about Intaker, I was like, no, I don't want to hear about another chat. I don't want to know from you guys. It's a terrible idea. You're not going to get cases in that. Just forget it. We've studied it for more than a decade, whenever it first came, 8 years, whenever it first came around, really. But now I will tell you that, if it doesn't, and you said, especially for PI, it's all potential clients, that people are impatient now. They don't get you on the phone right? And they can't get a hold of you, they're going to the next person on the internet or the next name they have by way of referral. So the ability to take our intake receptionist off of leads that we would not, right, otherwise take, and put her and that team on cases that we would take is a game changer in terms of profitability. That doesn't matter whether you're doing business litigation, estate planning, PI, the ability to have the person focus on leads we want is huge. And so I think I've done a complete 180, and it's been a huge, huge win for us in terms of signing cases up.
Thank you both. I love you guys. And shout out to Neil Crane. I know he's not here, but he's the very first person to connect us, Nick.
Yep.
And so gotta give credit to the man.
Yep.
All right. And Wayne, I'm happy to hear. I know that you also have gone through some like iterations, right? And so like the first version of Intaker didn't quite have what you were looking for, so you were able to make some tweaks, modifications, and I think you said that also made big improvement.
Yeah, and you guys, well, we vote, the partners voted to terminate Intaker, and I said, wait, I'm hearing good things, and and you guys went back and you changed, the decision tree, or you can explain the technical piece, but basically you changed the way that questions were being asked and answered. And for us, there was an immediate change in getting cases signed. I mean, truly, that's what happened. So anyway,
it's gotta have an ROI. I hear you. And for those folks that are not just looking at, generating business from their website, but also who are doing local service ads, Google screened. I mean, I know I'm going to go through kind of quick for this next part to, respect your time. But if you are using LSAs in any capacity, do me a favor, just put the number 1 in the chat. Put 1 in the chat if you're using LSAs. What I want to mention to you here is that why this is so important. LSAs has 2 options, phone calls and messages. Now, you know what the phone calls are, you know what you need to pay attention to. And if you let the phone ring too many times, that's going to affect how you respond, where you show up in the rankings for LSA in the 3-pack up top or anywhere on that list. But what you might not know is that if you have messages turned on, or even if you don't have messages turned on, that could affect your ranking as well. And when you do, how fast you reply is going to be a factor, a critical factor in how the algorithm decides where to place you in the rankings. I know a lot of firms want to spend more on LSAs. They might not be able to just because they're not showing up where they want to at the top of the real estate on Google. And so if you turn messages on, and if you have a way to make sure that you're getting back to people, that initial response time to that first message is what Google pays attention to, that's going to help increase your rankings. So what we've been able to do is we launched this as a beta a few months ago, started a wait list, got a few dozen firms on, and we're now actually ready. This is the first announcement today before we send an email. You're here to hear it first. We're now opening this up to everyone. And so if you want to get started with LSAs, you'll have a way to get in touch. I'll send you the info, but I'll just put my email here as well. Just send me an email and I'll make sure that you have all the information. Why this is going to be important is it's going to improve your placement for ad ranking. It's going to take so much time off of your team if you're doing this manually. When you get LSA message leads and you have to have someone on your staff actually go in there and respond to every message, it could be, I don't need to tell you how much time it could take. You're doing so many other things. You and your team are very busy. And so having that one extra thing that might be annoying, but be really important just in your overall health of your LSA strategy is so critical. But now Intaker can go ahead, do that process for you, capture leads the way you would, pre-qualify them, answer basic questions about your firm as well, and make sure that if the conversation gets off the rails, bring it back around so that you just get the information you need to your point, Wayne. Make sure you can help these people. They're in the right area. You can get in touch with them and pass that information on to your team as fast as possible. So anyway, good. I'm happy to see there's a few folks in here doing them. All right, cool. In the last couple of minutes here, I did want to just run through. Hopefully this works. Does it work? Hope so. What this is going to be like, because I promised you that I would show you how we go from initial chat on a website. This is a little bit of a different style, but imagine this is a chat on your website, same technology, same box. But we want to be able to pre-qualify these leads and have AI decide what to do and take some action. So I know we're talking a lot for about half the room is PI attorneys. I'm just going to go ahead do this situation for a nursing home. And I'm going to, keep it super short here. I'm going to add just a fake name here. When we go through this process of qualifying leads, there's a few different ways to do it. You can get the details you need first, and then contact information first, and then do the pre-qualification. Or for some firms, maybe if you're like an employment law or something, you want to pre-qualify folks just to make sure you don't get half a chat where they give you the contact information and nothing else. When it comes to types of pre-qualification that you might need, again, if this is a nursing home case, they might not all be created equal, but knowing, for example, if it is bed sores, asking a little bit more details about a question about a matter like this, just so that your team is save time on the phone and make sure that if they are someone to help, who you can help, get them connected right away. When it asks what state, I'll just say California. And then if this is for myself or a loved one, and some of the questions here, if we say that they are deceased, we might ask, when did they pass away? And other details, when did the accident or abuse or neglect happen? I can share that. Things like, names of facilities, certain information they may want to skip if they don't need to answer everything. Okay, so we saw a little bit of that. I promised that only took 1 minute. All right, I'm on track. And now I want to show you what that actually looks like inside Integer, right? So if you're using this already, you might be using some of these AI tools, but you can imagine that some of these are right here. Things like, this is the chat, this is what came in, right? And then having this ability to say that, all right, these are the details that we captured. And based on information that I decide, as the law firm, I get to choose, with the case value, what that looks like. AI decided that was a medium case value based on how I set up this potential case value. You can change it. For me, I might have, if there are certain types of injuries listed, mark that as high, not a medium-sized case. If we know that there's no injuries listed, we can also update that as well. And all these custom fields here is what letting AI take the information, as Wayne would say, the facts of the case, analyze it, and then decide the next step or next action. So for example, what could happen is getting a phone call to see if this lead is, pre-qualified, making sure that this person is getting on the phone as fast as possible. And I think I might have my notification silenced, so you might not have seen the phone call come through. Anyway, but that's just one example of a trigger that could start this process of taking what started on the website, move it to a phone if it passes that initial pre-qualification question. And so just to kind of give a little more context, having some of that information here and see, as this other example, if the lead is qualified, passing that through a live call connect, and then being able to take that call, making any recording of it, and then even analyzing the information in the call recording and go ahead. Oh, actually, sorry. Well, anyway, I'm getting the call now from the AI. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'll just, for time's sake, continue here. All the information, all the transcript, being able to analyze this for certain keywords, and then also updating certain custom fields and actions based on that information as well. All of this stuff you can do now. The next part is being able to send
Shay
things
had
like,
asked if all of this data goes to your CRM.
if you're using Integer for your CRM, it's all baked in. If you're using a third party or an outside CRM, you might need to wait a few weeks or potentially a month or two for us to catch up on the integration side to pass all this information on. So right now, what I would say is if you're using something like, I don't know, Lead Docket, for example, we pass all this info on, but if Lead Docket has tools in there to do some of this analysis, we'd have to rely on that. Versus if you're using Integer for the CRM, you could do all this pretty much out of the box. So if you are using Integer maybe for chat, looking into using it possibly for CRM, then come talk to us afterwards as well, because that's something that I know might be helpful to some folks. So anyway, I hope I didn't lose you all on that. So let me go back. And I know that was quick, but it's at 11:59. So I have a little bit of time if anyone wants to hang out longer. Oh, sorry. Here we are. But that's my email. Please send me a note. If you are not using Intaker at all and you want to see a demo from top to bottom, scan that QR code. You can book a time there with our team. But yeah, that is what I wanted to touch on. Hopefully, in terms of using AI to streamline some of the intake process, that is some helpful info. And especially if you're interested in LSAs, come talk to us because I'm so excited for that. It's going to be huge. Anyway, I'm going to pass it back to Nick and Wayne. Any kind of final words or thoughts or anything else that you want to share?
Wayne, if you want to jump in, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm good on my end. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Joe. It was great. Appreciate you having us. And if there are any questions that pop up for me, you can just message Nick off that email and he'll get it to me and I'll respond from my email. And it's just probably easier this way and we'll go from there. But thank you for having me.
You're awesome. Well, everyone, and Brad, about your question for integration, reach out, send me an email, and we can have a chat. 'Cause I know you're using several products, and we integrate with a bunch of them. But all right, Nick and Wayne, we'll see you for the next one. Thank you so much, and we'll send the recording to everyone who signed up as well.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Much love, family.